hope you're doing wonderful. This is the day that the Lord hath made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And we can say that for any day, not just Sunday, any day of the week. So how is everybody? How is school? How is work? How are you guys doing? I hope you're doing great. Today, we're going to talk about the answer to a mother's prayer. And it's really ironic that this story came to my mind because I have been praying so hard for my children. And I thought, you know what? It's not just a specific prayer that, oh dear Lord, please, not just a vague prayer like, oh dear Lord, please help. It was a very, hey Paula, welcome back. A very specific, I am so tongue-tied, a very specific prayer. So when I pray for my kids, I try to pray specifically for what they're going through. Maybe it might be help Megan with her ministry, or help Kayla with what she's doing, either at work or school. She's only got just a couple months left and she'll be done with her bachelor's. And then my son, man, I pray for him so much because he's a boy and he's all grown up. And I'm like, no, not my baby. Yep, my baby grew up on me. So I'm hoping that God will answer my prayers as a mother on my children. So let's see what this mother was praying about. This is found in Matthew, which is the first book of the New Testament, chapter 15. It's also found in Mark, chapter 7 and 8. And Mark happens to be the second book of the New Testament. So Matthew, Mark, here we go. When Jesus had spent a while in the neighborhood of Capernaum, he moved away with his disciples into the land of Tyre and Sidon on the coast of the Great Sea, which we call the Mediterranean nowadays. So if you look at a map and you see the Mediterranean Sea, this is where he was. And that's so cool. That's so cool. This was not Jewish country, but Phoenicia, a part of what is now called Syria. So these things that are taking place, we know as it's a new name, but it's the same place. So where this is taking place is Syria, but it wasn't called Syria back then, and on the Mediterranean Sea, which they didn't call it the Mediterranean Sea back then. And just a fun fact, there's the Arabian, let's see, is it the Arabian Sea or the Arabian Peninsula? I can't remember, but I was trying to find on a map where the very first church Paul had I think it was right there in Cyprus in Greece. And I was trying to find it on a map. And I get so excited when I can see, I can pinpoint, oh my goodness, and my sister actually got to stand there where the first church was, and she was so excited. Anyway, while they journeyed along one day, a Canaanite woman came to them and began to cry out to Jesus, "Have mercy on me, O Lord, Son of David. My daughter is cruelly possessed by a demon." Now this stuff was true. Not that people aren't demon-possessed now, but back in the Bible times, there seemed to be a lot of they would remove evil spirits from people. And as a matter of fact, there was one man that was demon-possessed, and the demons were actually begging with Jesus, "Please don't kill us." So he sent them into the pigs, and the swine ran into the river. But they say a legion, which means many. This lady is crying that her daughter had been demon-possessed. But Jesus said nothing at all. The poor woman kept on crying out to him and made such a fuss that in the end the disciples said to him, "Please, Lord, send her away because she is shouting after us." So they're basically saying, "Zip it, what's wrong with this lady? Okay, we hear you. Shh, shh, shh." But listen what happens. But he answered and said, in her hearing, something which must have sounded very unkind, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and bowed down in front of him and cried out, "Lord, help me." Then he said to her, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." But that poor woman was so desperate that she said, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs feed on the on the crumbs which fall from their master's table." So this lady is not giving up. And listen to what he says. "Oh, woman, your faith is great indeed. Your cry is heard, and it will be as you wish." In that very moment, her daughter was healed. Wow! After a short time in the land of Tyre and Sidon, Jesus went back to the parts around the Sea of Galilee, and many people came again to hear him and to have their sicknesses healed by him, the lame, the blind, the deaf. He healed them all, and they glorified God for his mercy. There again, one day, he fed the crowd in a miraculous way. Now, I'm going to stop there. When they say there again, he fed the crowd in a miraculous way. Do you remember how he fed the crowd one other time in a miraculous way? Do you remember what happened? They had gone and they were sitting around the sea, and they had been there all day, and it started getting late, and there were lots of people, like thousands of people there, and they were hungry. Do you remember the miracle that happened? The first miracle was Jesus turning the water into wine, but one of the other miracles that we talk a lot about was feeding the multitudes, and he had 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread. So that was what he was referencing. So it's like 5 loaves and 2 fishes. I always say that backwards. I'm sorry. It's 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, but it fed thousands. Sorry about that. One of these days I'm going to get that straight. So he just said, after a short time in the land, Jesus went back to the parts around the Sea of Galilee, and many people came to hear him. Here they go. Again, they're coming. And to have their sicknesses healed by him. Remember, we said the lame, the blind, the deaf. He healed them all, and they glorified God for his mercy. There again, one day, he fed the crowd in a miraculous way. This time, they had been away from home for 3 whole days. There's that number 3 again. There's such an emphasis on the number 3, and I kind of think, hey, Tanya, I kind of think it goes around with the Trinity. The Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. He was in the grave for 3 days and rose again. There's something about that number 3 that's powerful. But here they go. They're talking about it. They were away from home for 3 whole days and had no food. This time the Lord took 7 loaves and a few small fish, and 4,000 men were fed, apart from the women and children who also had all they needed. What? Yes! When they had finished, there were 7 full baskets of fragments left over. So here's the really cool thing. It identifies, again, the number 3, and it also talks about the number 7. Remember that. There's really something important and powerful with the numbers 3 and the number 7. One day when Jesus was in the part east of the Sea of Galilee called Decapolis, it was called that because there were 10 towns there. Near to the town of Gadara, where he had healed the 2 demon-possessed men, again, talking about removing the evil spirits from people and making them whole, they brought to him a man who was deaf and spoke with difficulty. So I want to stop there and have you think about how hard would it be to speak if you can't hear what the words are supposed to sound like. Have you ever thought about that? So your people who are either hearing impaired or deaf, they have to watch your mouth to see how to make the words. Well, this man was deaf and he spoke with difficulty. That kind of makes sense, right? So they begged Jesus to lay his hands on the man and heal him. Jesus took him aside from the crowd and put his fingers gently into the man's ears. Then after spitting, he touched the man's tongue. With a deep sigh, he then looked up to heaven and said to the man, "Be opened." At once the man could hear, and he was able to speak properly. How amazed the crowds were. They said, "Look, he does all things well. He even makes the deaf to hear and the mute to speak." At Bethsaida, the people brought a blind man to Jesus. After taking the man aside privately, I want to stop right there. Why do you think he keeps taking people aside privately? Why do you think that is? Do you think it might be because he wants everybody to just think they're having a conversation? Or do you think maybe it's because he doesn't want to be inundated with people coming for healing? Or do you think it's so he can have a silent, solemn prayer? What do you think it is? Put it in the chat box. So after taking the man aside privately, Jesus touched his eyes with saliva and then laid his hands gently on him. "Do you see anything?" he asked. And the man, I got something in my eye. And the man answered, "I see men, but they look like trees walking about." Then Jesus laid his hands on the man's eyes again, and now he became able to see clearly. He was so glad that he wanted to tell everyone But Jesus said that he must not even go into the town, nor tell anyone what had happened. You see, Jesus wanted people to come to him to hear his teaching and have their souls healed, and not to think of him only as a wonder worker who could make their bodies well. So when I asked you earlier, why do you think he took them privately? That sounds like that might be the answer, right? Because Jesus didn't want people to come just because he was performing miracles and he was healing people. And it shows that people had great faith in him when he was like, woman, your faith has healed your daughter. And here's this man, and he's putting his fingers in his ears, and then he took his own saliva and touched it and put it on this man's tongue. I just want to stop right there. Can you imagine standing beside Jesus? I mean, seriously, just think about this. You are standing beside Jesus. These people in these crowds had that privilege to stand beside the one and only Son of God. Wow. Not only that, they are healed by him. I mean, it's not like we have to be prayed upon and anointed. I mean, they walk up to him with faith and say, can you please heal this, this, and this? And he's like, yeah, I guess so. Because he knew he could do it. But really, he wasn't wanting to heal physical things. He was wanting to heal their souls. Why is that so important? Because if your soul, if your heart, if your mind, body, and spirit, if you aren't living for God and don't have God as the king of your life, what's going to happen to your soul? If you reject God or you turn away from God, what happens to your soul when you die? See, that's why he wanted to emphasize it was so important that he wanted to heal souls. Because we can maneuver, we can make do with something wrong with us. We break our foot, or we have we sprain our wrist, or break our hand or something. We can still get around and do things. God didn't mind to heal that, but really, he wanted to heal people inside. So when you're having one of those days and you're feeling like, oh man, I just keep messing up. Hello, welcome to the rest of the world. But the really cool thing is, if you have Jesus and you have a relationship with God, and you have that person, hey April, and you have that person beside you that sees that you're not going to get upset. And yes, you had a bad day, but you overcame it. Or you ask for forgiveness. I'm sorry how I treated you yesterday. I'm sorry I was kind of short with you. Or I've even called people and say, hey, I've been out of touch for a little bit. Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. Shame on me. It's not that hard to pick up the phone and call somebody and say, hey, you doing okay? You need anything? When you let your light shine for God and for Christ, it's noticed. There's something different about you that people are inquisitive about, and they want to see that. That's what God wants. He wants your heart. And I pray all the time that God will just grab a hold of people's hearts and never let go. Let them feel that enthusiasm, that fire in their belly, and that feeling of, I can do anything through Christ who strengthens me. He wants to heal the inside. He did heal a lot of the outward problems people had, but like the story said, he wanted to touch people's souls. He wanted to work on them internally. When things change in your mind, in your heart, what you say changes. It's true. What you listen to, what you read, what you say, what you hear, if it doesn't glorify God, it changes the way your mind looks at things, and it changes your perception. You ever heard the saying, garbage in, garbage out? And sometimes at work they'll say bad data in, bad data out. That just means if you don't have the accurate information, then you can't give the accurate results. So if you're getting bad stuff in, then you're going to give bad stuff out, right? So if you're not focusing on your relationship with God, and you're not getting spiritually fed, which means reading your Bible, doing a Bible study, trying to dig into what does that even mean, or praying, having a prayer, a genuine relationship, a prayer life with God, then how are we able to continue on being positive and be the example and the light in the dark? And something I heard today at church from Pastor Scott Rawlings was, when you get into a dark, dark sin and a dark, dark place, all that does is allow that light to shine really, really bright. Allow your light to shine. Don't let anything stop you from requesting and having the faith that God can heal you inside. Wow, that's a lot to think about. You guys are awesome. That's all I have for you tonight. I want to thank you so very much for being supportive and being on here with me. Be sure to share the story with your friends, family, whoever you want. You have my permission to go out there and share the love of Christ. You don't need it, but you got it. And I want you to be obedient, be humble, be kind, be generous, be thoughtful of what someone else is going through. We're still going through COVID. Some people are really struggling. Let's keep praying for those people, that we can be the light in the dark. If you're going to the store, Paula, you got me again. I feel like Carter. Paula, you got me again. Make sure that your light is shining even in the darkest of days. And that light will only shine if we have the love of Christ. You guys have a super wonderful day. Have a super wonderful night. Have a great day at school tomorrow. And I want you to know you are so appreciated. You are so wonderfully made. And God has a plan for you, for your life. Let's find out what it is. Don't forget to follow The Bold Movement on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. If you have any questions or concerns, email us, info@theboldmovement.com. And we do have some of our Bible stories starting to log on to the YouTube channel. So if you have friends that can't get onto Facebook, or maybe you're just not happy with what Facebook's doing, check us out on YouTube. It's the same Bedtime Bible Stories with Mrs. Jill, I think is what it's called. We're on there. You guys have a wonderful night. Don't forget, share the love of Christ with someone and do it boldly. Go out there and be bold. You guys have a great night. Bye, guys. See you tomorrow.